We had finished our stay at the Coronado campground outside of Albuquerque and also toured the Coronado historical site. So then we decided to head west to the Acoma Pueblo Sky City. And we were driving out there and we came across a 16-mile backup on Highway 40. So we thought we would take a detour to get around it. And as it turned out, the detour had some horrible roads on it, with severe washboard, and then it had a bridge that was too low for the camper to cross under. So we had to double back and finish our trip on I-40. And this is just a look at some of the traffic that we had to deal with, miles and miles and miles. We're looking at a zoomed in picture of the Acoma Pueblo Sky City. Down over here is the museum, and you catch a bus on the back side of the museum. These are tour buses. Catch a bus back here, and you go up the road here to the city, and the bus stops right about here, and then you walk the rest of the way. And we walked through the city, looking at the different houses. This is the big San Esteban del Rey mission that was built in 1629 till 1640 when the Spanish conquistadors came through and conquered the locals. You cannot take pictures inside of it, but you can take pictures out of it. And by the way, I have a permit to take the pictures because we bought a $25 pass that includes the photography permit. So this is the museum, and right in front of the museum is a little cemetery. And there are, I guess, 4 layers to the cemetery. It's quite old, and every time that the cemetery layer is full, they fill 10 feet of earth over it and then begin new. And so there are 4 layers in there now, and they have decided that they will not create another layer, and there are only spaces left for military members and tribal leaders. No, just regular people can be interned there. The inside of the cathedral is basically just one big box, and it has large timbers across the ceiling that were hauled in from a forest 40 miles away. And the ceiling is probably 50 or 60 feet high. And by the way, the plateau from the ground level to the top is 370 feet. And so the tour just kind of guides you through the village up here, and you can look at all the different examples of uh, adobe structures that they have used. And about halfway through the tour, you come up to these cliffs here, and you can take pictures looking off into the distance and down below. This is an area where we had 3 ravens that were flying around the cliffs. Kind of interesting to watch them. And then the tour comes back down through here. This is the oldest part of the city there. And then it ends up back over here where the bus is. And let me see, there are 3 cisterns in here. That's how they got their water. They stored rainfall. And there's one kind of in the middle of town, and it has one tree. There's one tree on top of the plateau, and our guide jokingly calls it the Acoma National Forest. They have a second cistern up here that is just a deep bowl, and you'll see that later in the video. and the third and last cistern is down here. And apparently, they have a problem with algae in the pools right now, so they're definitely not something that you would want to drink from. So that is basically Sky City from a distance. It's a very interesting tour. Then they have a little bit of a display down here in the museum and some artisans selling their goods. So a very interesting tour. Okay, so this is some of the scenery driving in to the Sky City area. And we stayed at the Sky City Casino RV park the night before and drove into the um, Sky City Museum and Historic Site to take a tour ride up. The tour ride includes a photo permit with that, so the pictures here are permitted, licensed. This is the road on the bus going up to Sky City, and you can see some of the stuff, some of the old ruins that are there. This is the first house that you see driving up to Sky City, and it's uh, pretty interesting once you get up there. It's all Pueblo style, and it's been restored by uh, the people that live there. This is a cross on top of the cathedral. We'll see in a minute. This is one side, the living quarters of the cathedral, and you can see the balcony upstairs there. And that upstairs, I'm told, is where a schoolroom was. Notice that ceiling and the corbels. That's very similar to what is inside of the cathedral. No photography is permitted inside the cathedral. This is what the surface of the ground looks like. It's just stone, flat rocks. So this is I'm just going to show you pictures of the houses, and that's the cathedral. There you can see the main cathedral, San Esteban, in the background. Let me make sure I have that name right. San Esteban del Rey Mission. And that was built in 1629, completed in 1640, 21,000 square feet, and it is basically a big square box structure, completely open inside with a balcony above the entrance, and it's pretty neat inside. This shows the construction, the foundation around it, just stacked rock with adobe. That bell apparently was one of three gifts that were from the King of Spain when the mission was completed. And unfortunately, you cannot go inside and photograph the mission or the cemetery next to the mission. So you can see that some of the houses in the Sky City are in various degrees of repair. That is the stucco with straw applied to the outside of that. That's probably the more authentic way to build them. And then they have other stucco. Apparently, they are allowed to use uh, pretty much any construction method, stone, adobe brick, concrete blocks, and then stucco over it. And everything has to be in earth tones. There you can see the top of the mission again. And there's a lot of ladders that go up to second levels. This tree is funny. That's the only tree that grows on top of the mountain, and they call that the Acoma National Forest. That single tree. This is a one of three water cisterns, and that is how they got water living on top. They would collect rain in all these cisterns and try to ration it out as best they could. There were probably dry times where they would have to bring water up to the city, and I like the stacked rock structure of that with the mortar or adobe mud between the bricks, and that was just a rock in the middle of the town there. So you see more of the stairs going up, and you see the white stairs, and then that second stair in the back, and that is, I think it's a kivu where they would have their kiva, where they have their religious ceremonies. You symbolically walk up the white stairway, and then you walk down into the stairway, and walking down into the structure represents walking down into the earth to be with the ancestors. They could not go below the ground here because it was all rock, but these three, you see that middle one, there's a point on each side, and that points to the morning and the afternoon, and the rising and the setting sun, and it also is a lightning bolt. But also at the bottoms of them is a hole that they used to communicate to let them know that a priest was coming so that they could secretly hold their religious meetings. I liked that truck before. It was just kind of interesting to see a truck up in a old village like this. And then that was a baking oven. This is a scratch coat of mortar over the brick. Some of it is falling away. Poppy's being naughty, climbing up on things that she's not supposed to. This is the second cistern here. It's empty. It's a big rock bowl there. You can see where the water has been in it. These are new bathrooms that they installed. They have solar electric in them, and they are composting toilets in there, and they offer a nice view looking out while doing business. This is the oldest section of the town that remains, and so you can walk on down there. I guess first this is a cliff edge that we went to, and it was kind of interesting to see these rocks and rocks in the distance. Then there were three ravens flying around the property. This is one of the uh, houses on the edge there, and they have a little bit of a patio ledge there, which would probably be a pretty cool place to live. This is looking down another side of the cliff, and that is far down below. The cliff, the Sky City is 370 feet above the plateau, or the basin, the bottom. There's one of the ravens flying there, and we'll get some more pictures of it. There you can see him flying along with his legs curled up. This is a better picture of the raven here. Crow, it's not a crow, it's a raven. It's a crow. Crows caw, ravens kind of click. And the ravens were all hanging out on those cliffs over there. You can see one of them, but they were going down and around through the rocks. There's a tank of propane. There are people that live up here. There are 5 men designated to be up here all the time through the year, and their families accompany them, and they take care of things around the city. So we're just kind of looking at some of the colors and uh, uh, textures and the windows and uh, just looking at the way things are up there. Now, if you look at that sign, you see the parrots on top. And parrots, the feathers of parrots were important for ceremonies, and they would travel to Mexico to get the feathers and bring them back. This was someone who had art for sale outside of their place, but we didn't see the person that was doing the selling. And that was just interesting to see a little cross with some flowers up on the roof there. Um, and then a lot of these buildings have ladders or stairs going up to the roof. I thought it was interesting to see a home with wheelchair access on it. And this house had an arch with a horseshoe over it and a bird's nest. And if you look at the door under the stairway there, that's an original door from the days of the conquistadors, the Spanish. And originally, the bottom floor was for storage, no windows or doors. You would enter the second level, which was the main living level that was heated, and the heat would travel up to where the sleeping areas were, but the Spanish made them put doors on the lower levels. So what they did was made the doors for their height, not for the Spanish height. And most of the Indians of the time were about 4.5 feet tall, and the Spanish were 5.5 feet tall. So it made it difficult for the Spanish to inspect the houses. These are buttresses that help support the buildings in times like an earthquake or something. It keeps the walls from falling outward. And this was another one of the houses there. That one has kind of a more modern construction, one of the larger buildings. This window is made from mica that I guess that they crush and powder and then lay flat and leave it for about a year, 5 years. And over that time, it kind of welds itself together, and it's not see-through, but it allows light in, and it's very smooth. The dog you saw there, her name is Maybelline, and it's just kind of the neighborhood dog. This is the third and last of the cisterns, and all the cisterns have algae growing in them, which is kind of a problem for them. They don't use that water. They bring up water. This is remnants of an old grinding stone that they would use. So we're back at the museum, and there's the truck camper out in the parking lot. We're getting ready to leave here, and we are on the road again. So we are looking back at, or just looking at some of the other rocks. And as we get up onto the hilltop and look back, you can see that there's kind of like a formation of pillar rocks where the museum is located. You don't see it from the museum, but when you're at a distance, you see it. So we're going up a pretty steep grade here, and it's just kind of interesting the difference in um, uh, colors of strata. We have the black there and the browns above, and you can see where some people have dug into the strata. I don't know if it's fossil hunting or something, but so there we're looking back at Sky City on top of the plateau, and you can make out Sky City on top of that plateau in the distance. There is the road up again, and just taking a picture of the valley below. So it's kind of interesting. They just one day they were minding their own business, and the next day the Spanish conquistadors with, I guess, like 1,000 men and horses and pigs and cattle and all their food were traveling along and took over the city and forced them all to convert to Catholicism. And then there was a revolt where they rejected it, killed a lot of the Spanish, and went back to the native ways. And then in the 1800s, Italian monks came by who were much kinder, and they began to accept the Catholic religion at that point. And so here we are on the road, and we're at different museum here. I can't remember what it was, but it used to be a naval or an Air Force bombing range. Can't remember the name of the place, but it's kind of an interesting spot, and there's quite a bit of BLM land around it to camp. We didn't camp there, we kept on going. This is a piece, the barrel of a Sharps rifle that was found by a firefighter. Very interesting find. And so we'll close the video out here just looking at some stars. I set up the camera to just kind of take some pictures because the night sky is so dark and clear. We're at 7,500 feet here at Blue Water Reservoir. That's the Milky Way in there. And so the sky was just so clear that I decided to set up the camera and take a few pictures. There's the truck camper, and another little bit with the truck camper, and you can see some kind of a streak in the sky. And the slightest bit of motion will disturb your image. That's why I have the little loopies there. There's the moon. That is a jet going across the sky. And just some more stars, more than you can count, and more stars. So there's a few more star images up here, and then I'll finish out the video trying to get a couple of pictures of the lake itself. And I can't really get pictures of it because it's just not enough light to get a good image. There's a little bit more Milky Way. And so I'm just taking pictures of stars randomly across the sky, just enjoying myself. It was starting to get pretty cold outside, so I am going to wrap it up here in just a minute. And at the end, I'm going to add a picture of the Sky City zoomed in there just to let you take a look at it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video and give us a like, leave a comment or a question, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.